For more, let's bring in Deputy Director for the National Economic Council, Bharat Ramamurti. Bharat, thanks so much for making some time for us today.
Of course.
We just heard there from President Biden that he is ready to meet with Speaker McCarthy. So when is this meeting happening?
Well, there's an important part of what he said there, which is he's happy to meet with the Speaker when there's a budget from the House Republicans that explains what kinds of spending cuts and revenue they're in favor of. Today, the president laid out his budget, his vision for investing in America, lowering costs for families, protecting and strengthening Social Security and Medicare, and doing all of that while reducing the budget deficit by $3 trillion. The House Republicans have talked a lot about reducing spending, but we haven't seen a single detail from any of them about how they would actually do that. Once they do that, then sure, the president is happy to meet with the Speaker.
So ahead of their first meeting, Shalanda Young, the OMB director, and Brian Deese, who has since left, the White House said that one of their main objectives was to get McCarthy to commit to a date for when he would unveil this budget of his. Do you have any sense at all when you might see a budget from the Republicans?
Honestly, no. What we see from the Republicans is a handful of policies from some of their key members, some of them talking about reducing Social Security benefits, some of them talking about cutting Medicare, some of them talking about imposing a 30% sales tax on middle-class families in the United States. What we haven't seen is a document that lays out what the consensus view is among the House Republicans. We're still waiting for that, and it's not clear when that's going to come.
What we are also seeing and hearing is a lot of strong reaction to the president's budget. So I want to hear from a few Republican lawmakers and get your reaction on the other side.
Senator, is the president's budget dead on arrival?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Most presidential budgets are DOA in the Senate. We like to do our own work. I think the president's budget, any president's budget, in modern times has become more of a messaging bill than anything else.
So to Senator Kennedy's point, there is a part of the proposal that revives some of the president's social infrastructure plan that couldn't even make it through when House Democrats controlled the House. So can you talk about how much of this is political messaging, or do you disagree with that?
Yeah, what I didn't hear there from those clips that you played was any explanation from those Republicans why they oppose any individual element of the president's budget. I would love to hear an argument for them why they oppose strengthening the solvency of Medicare for an additional 25 years by reducing how much we spend on prescription drugs, by negotiating prescription drug prices and bringing them down for seniors and for taxpayers. What I haven't heard is any principled argument about why big corporations that are making tens of billions of dollars in profit shouldn't pay slightly more in taxes in order to finance paid leave for Americans or affordable child care. So, no, it's not a political document. It's the president's vision, and he is eager to work with both parties in Congress to get as much of it done as possible.
Well, you're right that they haven't offered any details, but certainly Republicans have said there have to be spending cuts. The backdrop of all of this is that they have yet to decouple that from raising the debt ceiling. How confident are you that you can have negotiations about a budget proposal without the debt ceiling being part of the conversation?
Well, I think we're quite confident about it because it's been unequivocally the president's position from the beginning of all of this. He said, just as they did 3 times under President Trump, raise the debt limit without any conditions attached to it, and then if they want to have a separate conversation about spending or revenue, we're eager and happy to have that conversation. As the president said, he's eager to sit down with the speaker once he releases a budget and talk through line by line, what are they for and what are we for? But it's clear that this president will not engage in a negotiation over the debt limit. It's happened 78 times in this country's history where there's been an increase in the debt limit. We've never once defaulted on our debt, and we can't negotiate over the full faith and credit of the United States.
Of course, one of those big, bold lines, Medicare, Social Security. Today, President Biden talked about how during his State of the Union address, Republicans verbally committed, at least, not to cut either of those programs. But he also injected a little skepticism, right? So what do you think about whether those two will be on or off the table as you head into these negotiations?
Well, look, that's entirely up to the Republicans. If they want to follow through on the commitment that they seem to have made during the State of the Union, that would be great. The president would be eager to lock in that commitment because it protects some key promises that we have made to seniors on their health care coverage and on Social Security. But what we won't know until we get that document from the House Republicans that says what they're for. It's important to note that several key members of that caucus, both recently and over time, have called for cutting Social Security or raising the retirement age. So we'll know it when we see it. But at this point, it's premature to speculate.
And of course, there are sweeping tax hikes throughout this entire budget proposal. On the campaign trail, then, candidate Biden promised that taxes on small businesses won't go up. But this budget includes a corporate income tax rate increase from 21 to 28% on C corporations, about a fourth of which are small employers. So what do you say to those employers who, thought that the president wouldn't raise their taxes?
Well, I want to be clear that any individual making under $400,000 or less will not see a tax increase under this proposal. And C corporations, as the president has proposed, would see a higher rate. But there's also an exclusion for that for folks making under $400,000 and any company incorporated in that form. So we feel quite confident that any individual or small business that makes under that $400,000 threshold is not going to see an increase because of this proposal.
All right. Bharat Ramamurti, thank you so much. I hope we can chat with you again once you have a better sense of what it is you're up against. Thank you.
Thanks.